What's going on, everybody? Super excited because today is the day that I get to have my conversation with my friend Darren. Now, you probably know Darren by now from Return to Collecting. He recently had a really cool video where, we all have cards that go up in value and we have cards that go down in value. And so Darren did a video on the 10 cards that have gone down the most since he bought them. And we're talking percentages. And he shared that and it really kind of blew up. It's gotten a lot of views. I will put a link in the description down below to that video. If you've not yet subscribed to Darren's channel, I really think you would enjoy it if you did. He's a great guy. He's got some really awesome cards in his collection. And I really enjoy talking to him every month. So we are going to go ahead and hook that up. Going to go in. I'm going to set everything up and have that conversation with Darren. I hope you enjoy it. And I hope that you leave a comment down below on what you thought of the conversation. And if there's anything you want us to talk about, if you have any topics that you want us to cover, but I have some ideas for this week, but we have been known to kind of get off topic a little bit. So we'll see where this takes us. All right, so here we are. We are back yet again. This is the episode that I know I look forward to, and Darren sure says he does as well.
Me too.
You can see, so we're starting to brand ourselves. We're starting to move up in the world. And, we were kind of talking about, should we have a little name for our monthly thing? And then in our last video, we got off topic so much. It was Adam, right, from Splendid Sports.
Yep.
Who said, you guys should call yourselves Off Topic because you're off topic all the time. And we were like, I think that's perfect, right?
Yep.
So we are now calling ourselves Off Topic, and we've got a little logo to make ourselves feel like we're legit, right? What do you think about this whole thing, Darren?
I love it. This is one of my favorite videos to do every month, is when you and I get to have a conversation. And historically we've been just kind of doing it and having different topics and never really sticking to the topic. So I think it's cool that we now have it branded. The brand is very accurate, I think. So I look forward to it.
Now, and the other thing, so then, everybody's been kind of participating in the development of our friendship here. And what we've been saying leading up into this is, I look forward to next month when I finally get to talk to you again. But actually, in the last month, we've actually talked on the phone, like old school talked on the phone, like 2 or 3 times. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. This thing is moving pretty fast.
Yeah, and I think within a month from now, we're going to meet in person too.
What is the date? Is right about a month from now.
Yeah, month
I'd have to look at the date, but yeah, we are going to meet in person.
Plus or minus a day here. Yeah.
Yeah, and plus our you're right. Like a month from now. And I'm hoping I get to see some of your collection. Mm-hmm. So maybe our next video together, it might be in person.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be.
Now, yeah. I mean, I'm excited to see your stuff. I mean, I see it on the screen, but to see it in person would be like a whole new level. So this is going to be cool for what we're talking about. So my daughter Lucy has a soccer tournament in Colorado, in the Denver, Colorado Springs area, which is the same area in which my friend here, Darren, lives. So I'm like, dude, I'm gonna come hang out, and you're like, cool. Yep. So now there's a few things that we wanted to talk about today, again, as our starting point, knowing that we're not going to stay there forever, and where this conversation goes, who knows. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is you made the decision recently to go to the Strongsville show.
Yes.
And last time we had talked, I think you were saying, yeah, I'm not going to be able to make it, but you've since made some tweaks to the plans and you are now planning on going. So let me ask you, to a show like Strongsville or the National or any big show, not the local kind of Denver show that you go to, but any kind of bigger show, how specific are you planning on getting with, like, are you one of these guys that shows up with a list of these are the 5 cards I'm looking for, these are the comps and the grades, I'm going to go ahead and focus on those? Or are you just going to walk in the door and be open to a lot of different things? And I'm setting you up here because one of the things we've been talking about is whether we were going to be able to stay more focused with our collecting this year, because historically you and I have not been very focused with our collecting, and you've been doing a lot better. So we'll talk about that more. So I am
Okay.
setting you up with what you have to with your answer here. So what's your approach going to be?
So yes, I actually, my stepson was supposed to have a lacrosse game that Saturday. That game got moved to the following Tuesday, so it freed me up to be able to go to Strongsville. So I'm super excited to go. I've been working on my list. So what I did for the national last year, I had a lot more cards to pick up. I had like a dozen on my list for the national, or maybe like 15. So what I did was I created a spreadsheet. I put the card at the top, or the name of the card at the top, and then down the side, I had the different grades from like 1 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And for the cards that I'm interested in, I would usually pick like 1 or 2, maybe 3 grades. And I would put the comp for that card and that grade into the corresponding cell. And I
Mm-hmm.
printed it out and brought it with me because I heard that the internet's spotty. So that's what I did for the national. So I basically had my list with the comps for the grades, and most of the cards I bought fit in that. I think I picked up one that was above the higher grade, so I wasn't sure of the comp, so I had to go walk outside and check it, and come back inside and buy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I picked up one that was below the comp, and I just I just looked at I think I was looking at this card in a 3, 4, or 5, and I ended up buying it in a 2. So I said, okay, I didn't go check the comp on it. I just said, okay, if it's about as less than a 3, that the 3 is less than a 4 for the 2, then I would buy it. So that's what I did at the national. For Strongsville, it's different because I don't have a list of 15 cards, right? I think there's one card I'm going after at Strongsville. If that card's not there, then I have a backup card, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
is my plan. And this will be my first big test, I guess, of my focused
You're
buying.
right.
So
Right.
one of the things that I've noticed doing my focused buying this year is I had the 12 cards. I'm buying one a month in theory. I've actually picked up a couple additional, so not outside of my 12. I just picked up, this is April's the 4th month of the year. I've got 7 of the 12 now.
Okay.
So I didn't deviate from my list. I just accelerated how quickly I picked them up. So,
Okay.
and I haven't shown the 3 that are beyond the 4 that I picked up. I haven't shown
Yeah.
them yet. And I think next week you might see a couple of them.
Now let me stop you here for a second, because you've just in that explanation you bring up a lot of questions for me. Okay, question number one that pops up is, let's go back to the national. You said
Mhm.
you had a card, it was a higher grade than you were expecting, so you didn't have the comps in front of you. You stepped outside to check the comps. Now, when you step away from a table like this for a card you're very interested in, and you step outside to check the comps to decide, what's your number, what's the plan? Do you say to the dealer, "Hey, can you hold this for a second? Can you give me 20 minutes?" Or do you just say, "It'll probably be here still. I'm just going to step away," and then you come back hoping that it's still there? Or what does that process look like for you when you step away to kind of think and plan and strategize?
So in this case, the card that I found was it was on Saturday.
Hmm.
I guess technically the Nationals open for like part of the day Sunday, but I think everybody's done by then. So it was Saturday afternoon, and I figured, okay, if it's still here, it's probably going to still be here if I come back in 20 minutes. He
Hmm.
was asking when I looked at the comp I had for this card was a 4, and he had it in the 5, and it was a really nice eye appeal 5.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw the price, I was like, whoa, that doesn't make sense. Because like at the National, you'll go to some tables at the National where you're like, oh, this must be a museum, not so much anything for sale, because your prices are so stupidly absurd. No one's going to
Now,
pay that.
let me interject. Let me interject
Yeah.
really quick, just for those that are just not maybe aware. I think you're referring to your 49 Bowman Satchel page. Is that right?
Oh, yes. Good guess.
Okay, so we're talking about the 49 Bowman Satchel page that you bought at last year's National. By the way, if you haven't watched Darren's National recap video from last July, I would check it out because there's some really awesome cards in it, including this one. But go ahead and keep telling the story. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. So, um, that was the card, and the guy was asking more. So my comp for the 4, it was like the 5 was like 50% higher
Mm,
than what the comp was for where the comps were for the 4. So I was like,
mm-hmm.
it's probably not going to sell, right? Because in fairness, there are tables at the National that I went to where I looked at cards. There's another table right near the one where I bought this. Again, well, let me stay on topic for a second, then I'll go off topic. I went
See how
outside.
hard
Yeah,
we're terrible. Go
I
ahead.
know, right? So I went outside, I checked the comp, I came back in, and I negotiated with the guy a little bit. He came down a touch, not a ton, and I ended up picking it up. But that was the only card I picked up that was above my budget. Everything else that I had there comp wise, I was able to get for at comp or less.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I learned there was, I'm expecting, like when I go to a Denver show, there's rarely, when I say like a local show, right, a Denver or Colorado
Right.
Springs show,
Right.
they don't have very much vintage. When they do, it's all fairly reasonably priced, and if it's not, then you can negotiate it a little bit, and then you're good to go. At the National, I didn't. I was actually surprised. This is my first National. There were tables where they had insane cards and were asking insanely high prices.
Mm-hmm.
And then even on the last day, you say, look, this card's been, all these cards I've been looking at your table have been here the whole weekend. You haven't sold any of them. Can you come down on this one? No, my price is firm. Like, okay. So then I went and I bought that page in a 5, then went back to the table that was near him that had the page in a 3. And so, look, I bought this 5, way nicer eye appeal than your 3, a lot nicer. And I literally paid less than what you're asking for your 3, just FYI. And the guy's like, no, I get it. Like, all right, cool.
So you literally went to the guy and showed him your better card in a better grade and said, "See, I told you you were overpriced."
Yeah, because I kept arguing. So the guy's wife kept telling me, yeah, yeah, what do you want? What do you want? What's your offer on the card? Let me go talk to him, because these tables get very, very busy. So that a lot of them have multiple people working them.
Mm-hmm.
And every time she'd go tell him, hey, this guy's gonna buy this. And he's like, no, no, I'm not coming down at all. I'm like, all right. So that's one of the things that, as I prepare for Strongsville, I doubt it'll be quite to that extreme because it is smaller. But, for people going to these big shows, when you first get there, you might see a couple of tables where you're like, wait, this doesn't make sense. Like, I can just go buy all this stuff on eBay, buy it now for cheaper. Why am I going to go through the hassle of, you know, getting cash, which by the way,
Yeah.
like the ATMs at the convention center in Chicago, they ran out of cash like every hour. There were lines of people. There was like 6 ATMs, there was lines of people, and then like 20 people would get through and run out of money. And then they'd refill it. And then so like it's just a pain to get the cash. To me, it's a little risky, I think, to carry that much cash around the floor,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you go to pay, right? Because you're pulling it all out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, from that perspective, if I couldn't find deals at the National, I would have just bought it on eBay because it's just easier, right? I wouldn't have the card as quickly, but it's easier. But what I learned was, because as soon as I got there, I text Theo. I was like, dude, what the heck? This is crazy. Like, I went to 3 different tables that had vintage cards and everything was way overpriced. And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, take your time, go look at other tables. You'll find stuff that are good deals. And I was like, no way. No, these guys don't want to negotiate. Like, I was super pissed. And
Mm-hmm.
then I walked around more, and it worked out, right? I found some cool stuff on my list. I found reasonable prices, and people were willing to negotiate down. So I
So
like that, right? So that's my strategy. That's kind of my plan. Strongsville, I think, will be different because it's smaller. So I think it'll be, I don't think it'll be, quite as, I doubt there'll be anybody there with a table of cards that are all overpriced that aren't willing to
I
negotiate.
I think there might be. I
Well,
mean, it's some of the biggest name vintage guys.
that's true.
Uh, so there, I have more follow-up questions for you. So another thing you said a minute ago is you said you've already picked, you're planning on one card a month, which is 12 cards.
Mhm.
You're being very focused on that, and you're already at 7, and we just finished the first quarter, right? So,
Yes.
so my question is, when you get through all 12, right? At this point, you're on pace to get through all 12 by about late May. Now, when you get there, are you really going to not buy a card for the second half of the year because you've bought your 12 cards for the year, or will you just keep going?
I don't know. So there's definitely some
I
cards that,
know, I know the answer to this. You're not going to stop.
so possibly, I don't know. So I, I definitely won't have them all, because one of the things too, I picked up some pretty cool cards, but some of the ones I have left on my list are pretty pricey. I have a
Yeah,
couple left that are about on par with the ones I picked up, but there's a few that are still more expensive, right? So those
yeah,
will take longer to save up for. Plus, being in sales, my cash flow isn't consistent. So when I do have extra cash flow, I accelerate, and then for the time I don't have the extra cash flow, I don't buy anything.
right.
So I would guess at the pace I'm on now, barring any major issues, I think I probably will finish my 12 by the time I'm done at the national.
Hmm.
So that leaves me, the last 5 months of the year, and I don't know. I might pick up one or two. My guess is I'll probably take card budget at that point and start putting it away for Christmas present budget for the fam.
Right.
So,
Well, well, from me enjoying seeing your pickups point of view, I hope the family gets coal because I want you to go card budget with it. Now, a couple other things. So, back to your story a second ago about some of the dealers being museums. Okay. I think everybody goes to shows, whether it's your local show or your big shows, where that it certainly feels that way sometimes, where it's like, what is this guy's point in being here? Is
mhm.
this guy just here to be buying, or is this guy actually looking to sell? Like, I don't get it. Now, are there certain dealers that, because like you can go on the Strongsville website right now and you can see a list of the dealers that are going to be there.
Mhm.
Do you have certain dealers when you go to these more regional shows or national shows instead of the local shows, that like if you walk in the door you'll see one of these guys and you'll go straight to that table, or will you just go kind of methodically? Like, are there certain dealers at the national and or Strongsville that if they're there you're going to go there first? Like, what's your thought process on, and then some of those dealers you were just talking about, I'm sure you'll remember the guy you just gave the story about. Will you just skip that table, or will you still look at the end after you've checked out the tables that aren't museums? Like, what's your process of going through a room when you have dealers that and dealers that you have history with and about how they operate?
So I don't have a ton of history with any of the dealers. There's one dealer who I remember, but I actually didn't buy a card from him in person. I bought it from him over Facebook. But I joined his Facebook group, so I see his updates and stuff. So I look forward to meeting him in person there because he'll be there. And then the other guys there, I'm sure I bought stuff from them at the National potentially, but I don't necessarily remember.
Okay.
So I think one for me, going to Strongsville is not because there's some like super oddball rare card that I want really bad that I can't find anywhere else. So I'm going to the Strongsville show to get it.
Hmm.
I'm going to Strongsville because I wanted to hang out with some YouTube guys, and I'm, and all of these guys that I've been talking to, they all know a bunch of these dealers. So I think one of the benefits for me in going, other than obviously spending time with some YouTube guys and building those relationships, having them introduce me to some of these guys, right? Like Petty's main guy will be there. He's the guy I bought the card from on Facebook. So Petty will
What
introduce me
what
to
what
him.
dealer is that? Who's Petty's main guy? For
Um,
people listening.
Ashish.
Okay.
So he'll introduce me to him. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was talking to Chris from Missouri the other day, and which, by the way, you and I talk about how we text a lot. Chris doesn't really text. So
No.
Chris and I, when we talk, we talk. Like he calls me and
So,
I'm like, okay, cancel
I
the
know.
next 3 meetings. I'm talking to Chris for an hour, hour and a half,
Yep.
right?
I'm the same way
But
with Chris.
he has a bunch of dealers that he knows, and he said, like, basically the ones that he doesn't know, Mike knows. And he was giving me a lot of good advice actually about ways to approach certain pieces of the event. So I'm really looking forward to going. I'm looking forward to seeing my YouTube buddies, and I'm looking forward to meeting some of these dealers to start to build a relationship with them. Because last year at this time I was chasing rookie cards for my top 50 players of all time countdown, and now that there's 2 left, and I'm not going to get either one before I get to the player, so I'm not concerned about picking them up per se.
Mm-hmm.
So now that that's done, the cards on my list are bigger cards, right? And we talked about this, right? Like last year I probably bought, I don't even know, 50 cards. This year I'm going to buy, my list is 12. I've already probably
It's not gonna be 12.
I've already purchased a couple outside of my list
The
that we'll talk
odds in
about.
Vegas of the over 12
No.
are just unbelievable.
Yeah, I would definitely, if I was a betting man, I would say bet on me going over 12.
Yeah.
But now that I'm past that, where it's like, hey, I don't need to pick up, say, like a Bob Gibson rookie card, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a Seaver rookie card, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a Melot Gowdy or something, right? Like I'm not picking those up. The cards I'm going for now are bigger and
Mm-hmm.
more expensive, and I buy fewer cards, right? So now is when I think it makes more sense to build rapport with some of these dealers, right? Because before it's like, hey, I need to build rapport with you because at some point this year I want to pick up, I don't know, a Gaylord Perry rookie card and a 5.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, you don't really need a relationship with me. You just buy it on
Right.
eBay, right? Like,
Yeah, it's 90
so,
bucks.
right.
Yeah.
So now it's time to start building those relationships. So that's actually something I'm looking forward to. And I think a lot of the guys going, I think will be super helpful to hang out with on the floor, right? Petty,
Yeah.
Orlando, Chris, Mike, Dave will be there. Even some guys that haven't done videos in a while that have awesome collections, they'll be there too. So I want to hang out with these guys because I think it would just be fun to hang out with them. But at the same time, also, I really want to learn from them.
Yeah.
Learn from them about the cards, the hobby, etc. But also, get introduced to some of the dealers and start to build rapport with them too. So that's kind of why I'm going. If I leave there with no cards, I'd be sad because, you got to pick up a card when you go to a show, especially when you fly there. So I don't know what card I'm going to get. I have a goal card for the show, but it's the rarest of the cards on my list. So if I find it, cool. If I don't find it, then like I said, I'll probably pick up, a backup card from my list. But who knows? I mean, there's a high likelihood that I end up buying like 4 or 5 cards not on my list that are less expensive.
Yeah. I don't want to ask what the card is that's number 1 or 2 on the list because I want to be surprised next month.
Okay.
And so I don't want to.
It won't be next month, by the way. I'll do a recap video Monday after I get back.
Okay. So
I'll
I'll
have
see it then.
2 cards in April.
But then we'll definitely be talking about Strongsville, and I don't want to give any spoilers right now, but one of the things we have been talking about doing is maybe going from once a month of doing these videos together to a couple of times a month, and on the other one having a guest on.
Yep.
And so we're already in the works with having a guest on for another one in April. And the guest would, we would try to make it how somehow the guests that we have on would be appropriate for whatever that scheduled topic is for the month or for
Correct.
the episode.
Yeah.
So look out for that we're gonna start doing this probably twice a month with a guest. And there is one in the works that I think is going to be a hoot.
I agree.
So
It'll be fun.
now, another thing I want to talk about, and I don't want to beat Strongsville to death, but I think you could put most of what we've talked about so far applies to anybody going to any show, right? It could be a modern collector going to the local show or a vintage collector going to the vintage show. Just kind of like the mindset of having a plan when you go to a show and what dealers you do. I mean, because I'll be honest with you, there are certain dealers at certain shows that I know, and I'm like, there's not going to be anything in that case. Not that I want. There will be things that I want, but there will not be anything that would be in a price range that I consider reasonable. So I usually just skip it and go to the next table. Like, I'm not rude about it. I just kind of, meander my way to a different spot because, so I think all of this applies to all of us. Now, the next question I think is an interesting one. So, we've all heard about Strongsville, and it's for years and years and years it was only vintage. They only allowed vintage cards, and then a couple years ago they started allowing some non-vintage in. So there is a smattering, I guess, of non-vintage now. And historically, for people who aren't familiar with it, it's been a very small show, like a banquet room at a hotel. Like, the room is not a big room, but they're just like the heavyweight vintage dealers. And the show has been going on since before I was born. The show, the Strongsville show started in 1978. It's the longest running vintage show, longer than the National has been going.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think is going to be really, really interesting is because I've talked to some people who aren't, who have been going to this show for a while, and they like the small atmosphere, and they like that it's kind of this unknown show that doesn't get a ton of people flying in, and it's just kind of like sort of this kind of underground sort of thing. And now all of a sudden it's kind of taken on a new life in that the exposure of it is much more national. They're upping the size of the show. It's no longer in the same facility. It's in a much bigger facility.
Yeah.
So it's going to go from this tiny little room to this much bigger room. All of a sudden there's a bunch of, the YouTube crew is going to show up. And I'm going to be no, I'm serious though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm going to be very interested to hear from some of these people that have been going for a while. Like, does it still have the same charm? And how does it change? And is it still good, but is it different good? Or, what are your expectations for this particular show, given what you've been exposed to? Because I've seen, like, I have seen Ryan Nolan, Breakout Cards, go to this show before. And I mean, it genuinely is a small room. And the stuff is it's just packed with crazy, awesome vintage stuff only.
Right.
And it's phenomenal. And if nobody, in fact, I'll link one of Ryan's Strongsville videos to the description down below of this video. So people should definitely check it out. He does a really, really good job with his card show videos. But have you thought much about that, or are you just kind of focused on, well, I'm going to meet up with these certain guys or certain people I want to start connecting with to kind of make plans together, and then I know there's going to be a bunch of vintage, and here are a handful of cards that I want to come in with some prices in mind? Or have you thought much about like what it's going to be like?
I haven't thought a ton of what it's going to be like. I mean, I've got, I've been given some guidance as to what to sort of expect there, which is good. And to be honest with you, my like when I'm on on the show floor, I'm not like it. Like I said, at the national, it's like okay, I've got a ton of different things I'm looking for. I got to run all over the place. Here, I almost want to just kind of take it in, enjoy it, like a almost more like a museum, right? Like get I think, we all do, but I get really excited about seeing cool stuff. Like if I walk by a case and it's got like an M101 4 or 5 Ruth, I'm not buying it. My wife wouldn't be happy if I'm like, hey, I took a second mortgage to go buy this card. But
Right.
you know, to see something like that, I just feel like that's awesome. Right. Like
Right.
that's awesome. I love to see that.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of cards. Like I have probably a list of 100 cards. I just want to physically see. I'm not going to buy any of them because I can't afford them.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm looking forward to at Strongsville. Right. Like
Yeah.
there's like, I would love to see a, 36 Worldwide Gum DiMaggio. Never seen one in real life. Right. I've never seen the Ruth rookie in real life. There's just a lot of cool I mean, 52 Tops Mantle, I've seen a bunch of them in real life. None of them in my collection, unfortunately, but I've seen a bunch. Right. But, the older pre-war stuff, that's the stuff that I'm looking forward to seeing, some of the real rare stuff, things that I'm learning more about since I've gotten on YouTube, right? The ice cream cards, the candy cards, the clothing company cards. Those are things that I'm looking forward to seeing, right?
Yeah.
Stuff that Dave Blue Jacket 66 has in one of his 5 safe deposit boxes, things like that. I would love to see in real life.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think something you said at the beginning of that is really good advice, which is sometimes I think we get so set on a mission that we forget to take it in. It's like, I a few years ago, my buddy turned 50, and for his 50th birthday, he's like, "Dude, I want to go play Pebble Beach with you." So we went and played Pebble Beach, and I get to the first tee, and I'm kind of nervous, and I play a couple of holes, and I'm not really playing that great, and then finally, I just said, "Dude, you're at Pebble Beach, like you." Your score doesn't matter, dude. You're not
Right.
qualifying for the Open.
Right.
Take pictures, walk slowly, check out the views, feel what the course feels like. Like feel
Mhm.
it. Don't just be so focused on part of it. Part of the experience at a show is buying the cards. Like part of going to Pebble Beach is playing golf, but a lot of it is experiencing the
Mhm.
views and the smells and the pictures and all of that. And so I think that's really, really good advice for people is when you get kind of amped for a show like this, like don't forget to take it in. Like the day of your wedding, like don't be so focused on I got to be here, I got to do this, I got to meet this person, I got to say this thing, I got to give this speech, that you don't take a second to just take a step back and look out and see this is a room with all of my favorite people in the world all in one spot. Like you have to take that in. I think that's really good advice. And
100%. Like it's the journey. As I get older, I realize this more. Like the journey is the more important part than the destination, right?
yeah,
And like you said, for anybody watching this video that has never been married, when you get married, Greg made a good point. At your wedding, you definitely will be 100% focused on everything other than enjoying your wedding. So enjoy it, right? But
yeah,
yeah, no, I think yeah, I mean, especially at this show, right? Like I said, I have one card. If I can't find it, I have a backup. And I literally, if I want to, I could probably go in the first morning the show opens up, spend, an hour, get the card or get the backup card and be done. Then I could
yeah,
spend the rest of the time enjoying it, right?
yeah, yeah,
Walking around, checking things out, right? And I think I sort of had that at the National, but with this one, I have fewer cards on the list, so um, the shopping piece is only like it's a small portion of it.
now let me ask you something else, because since I did started my channel, a year and a half ago, right? And when I started my channel, I didn't know a single person
Mm,
in the hobby other than my dad. Like,
right.
that's
Me
the only
too.
person I knew. I had seen a few videos, like I had seen, Mike Moynihan, and I had seen, Sammy Thunder, and I had seen Dave Blue Jacket, and I had seen a handful of people. But then, now I feel like I have all these people that I know, and not just the people that I've met like you, and I phone call with, Chris from Missouri, or text with Theo or whatever. There are also people that, like, I recognize them, like
Mhm,
I feel like I know them, but I've never spoken with them.
mhm.
And when you get to those shows and you start to actually see some of the people you recognize, and see some of the people that you've talked to on the phone and texted like you did last year, like, do you get surprised that there are certain people that in person you kind of connect with a little bit better, and you have kind of like, you just are drawn to them when you were thinking, oh, well, I'm going to hang out with this guy, and you end up going and spending a bunch of time and having and connecting more with somebody else? Like, what was the dynamic of that at the national for you?
For me, it was a little different because I was only like 6 months on YouTube at that point,
Hmm.
and I think I had like I don't even know if I had 200 subs yet. Maybe I had 200. Like I literally I didn't really know very many people, and for me, it was almost intimidating because I went to um, Mike's get together he had the first night,
Right.
and like when I walked into the hotel, I took an Uber from the actually no I didn't. My old boss actually picked me up at the airport and dropped me off at the hotel. And when I walked into the hotel lobby, like I'm walking in, I'm like, huh, it's like the first day of school at a new school. I'm like,
Yeah.
I literally don't know anybody. And I'm gonna walk in and
Yeah.
be like, hey guys, like I'll be like, who's this weird dude that keeps like rolling up on us? Like, go
Right.
away. So I walked in,
Right.
and what was awesome about it, as soon as I walked in the door, Orlando walked by and he was like,
Oh.
"Oh, Darren's here. Oh," and he brought me into the bar where everybody was hanging
Oh.
out and introduced me to some people and I had some conversations. And we went up to Mike's event, and that was intimidating for me, right? Because being a new YouTuber, I see these guys on YouTube that I had never spoken to before. I had commented on their videos. I don't think any of them had even seen my channel before or
Hmm.
commented on it ever. And I was like, you know, I didn't even go over and introduce myself to people.
Yeah.
The guys that I had talked to prior, right? Like I had talked to Theo. So when I got
Uh-huh.
there, I saw Theo. We hung out. Um, I hung out with Dave from Legends of the Dugout. I hung out with Steve from Vintage on Vintage, and then I hung out with those three guys for the majority of that event. And then I talked to a few other people, but like for me, it was kind of like going to like a Hollywood premiere, right? Because I'm like, oh look, there's Dave Blue Jacket. Oh wow,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
John Wade Boggs fan. There's it's
Yeah.
like so
Yeah.
I didn't go up and talk to any of these guys because I was like, they don't know who I am. They might not know who I am now either. Who knows, right? But like,
Yeah.
I just I didn't really engage with a ton of people. I had really good conversations with the guys I talked to, but I didn't spend a ton of time kind of talking to people. And the other issue I had at the national was issues probably not the right word. The other thing that kept that from happening was I had family there, right? So I didn't want to bail on them
Hmm.
a lot. So I went to Mike's thing. I left. I didn't stay. I probably stayed till about 9, and then I left. And I met up with my dad and my buddy, my old boss, for dinner. And then at the show, um, I stuck with my family most of the time. I'd step away a couple times, and I would see some YouTube guys like nearby. I'd go over and chat with them for a sec, but then I'd
Yeah.
go back and hang out with my family. And we stayed downtown Chicago, so like I didn't have any dinners with anybody, right? Because
Mm.
when the show 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it was 1,000 degrees in the convention center. We're like,
Right.
yeah, this sucks. Let's get out of here. We'd walk over and take the it's not the subway, whatever they call it in Chicago. We take that back
The
downtown.
L or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, the L. We take that back downtown and go to the hotel. We hang out downtown. We go out to nice meals and stuff. So it was a little bit different scenario. This for Strongsville though, it's different, right? Like I know these guys more. I've been on their channels. They've been on my channels. At a minimum, you know, they've commented on my videos now, so I know they at least know that who I am, or at least that I
Right.
exist to some extent, right? So it'll be good to see them and have conversations with them and get to know them better, like face to face.
Yeah.
Plus, it's just me going. I'm not going with anybody else, so it gives me
Oh,
the whole
your dad's not going this year? Oh, to Strongsville.
to
Sorry.
Strongsville. Yeah,
Go
my
ahead.
dad's going to the national. My dad, my
Right.
brother, my best friend, they're all coming
Yeah.
to the national. But for
Yeah.
Strongsville, it's just me, right? So
Yeah.
it gives
Yeah.
me the opportunity to hang out with these guys, have lunch, have dinner with these guys, you know, break bread, have the
Yeah.
conversations,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and walk the floor with them, right? Because, like I said, at the national, I saw a lot of people's recap videos, and they're like, "Oh, this group of us went here when this guy bought this," and I'm like, "Oh, dang, that would have been kind of cool." So,
Yeah.
um,
It's interesting because Chris from Missouri I was talking to the other day, and he was saying, he was like, yeah, at like the national, he goes, one of the people I'm going to hang out with the least is Mike Moynihan. He
yeah,
goes, because I see Mike Moynihan all the time, and I talk to him all the time, and we're always communicating. He goes, so I'm going to be like, Mike, see you later. I can catch up with you anytime, but I can't catch up with these three people anytime. And I thought that was interesting because, like, you know, I'm bringing my dad with me to the
mhm,
national, you know, and I'm obviously going to hang with my dad, and my dad likes to, you know, get it like a second set of eyes before he makes it by. So I'm sure he's gonna be like, hey, you know, come here and take a look at this card with me, you know, kind of thing. But even
right,
when we go to the local shows, we like walk in the room and I go this way and he goes that way, you know, like we don't like go table to table together.
mhm,
Um, so I'm really interested to see how that'll go. I'm
yeah.
also, you know, it's curious because like I I just assume nobody knows me because I've never met anyone. So
Everybody
like,
knows you.
but a decent amount of people know me, but but they don't we don't really I don't know them. So like even like I'll be intimidated by a lot by approaching a lot of people that I recognize. The sub count is irrelevant to me. You know,
Mhm,
that doesn't make you more or less anything.
I
But
agree.
I know that I'm gonna walk in the door and I'm gonna walk up and I'm gonna see certain people and I'm gonna be like, dude, I can't go up and talk to that guy. Like
That's
that guy, I can't go talk to that guy. Like I
yeah.
know, and then but I'm gonna be like, if they see me and they don't approach me, I'm gonna be like, oh, that's weird. I thought they should have approached me. So I'm gonna have to seriously get out of my shell
I'm the
and
same
approach
way.
people.
I'm the
Yeah.
same way, right? For me, I'm not intimidated by people's sub counts.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm intimidated by people's collections. If somebody has a collection that's just so crazy awesome, I'm
Right.
like, wow, like I don't want to like I want to go talk to them about it, but I don't want to like bug them, right?
Right. That's I mean, the whole thing is interesting. Now, another direction I want to take, and I've been jotting down notes as we've been going because I'm so flighty at this point in my life that if I don't take notes on what I want to ask you next, it'll be gone before I, you know.
Makes
So my
sense.
next my
Plus, we're
next
on
que-
topic 42 minutes in, so we need to get
well,
off
we're
topic
kind of on topic. I mean, we're talking about approaching YouTubers at big shows
That's true. Yeah.
and whether we have the confidence to do that. And so we're kind of on topic. But you know, when at the end of December, I guess is when we did maybe our first video.
Mhm.
I don't even know. I don't even remember how you and I connected. Like, I don't remember how did I get your number? How did you get my number? How did we start communicating? I don't really remember how that started, but I do remember I think it was the first video we did was at the end of, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was toward the end of December
Mhm.
and we kind of went through a recap of 20 of our 2023
Mhm.
pickups, and then we talked about kind of our goals, and we did like a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 of cards that we were kind of after for this year. We didn't have a video before that, did we? That was our first one.
I'm trying to remember. We might have had one before that, but that was like, I think that was our. When did you have me on Mike's channel? Was that before that?
That was after that.
Okay. Okay.
Well,
Then
we
yeah, that
did
might
the
have been our
Golden
first
Age of
one.
Cardboard together. I think we did the Golden Age of Cardboard fill in when Mike quit making YouTube videos for like 3 days.
All right.
I think we filled in. I think it was after that. Anyway, back to my main point. My main point was we had each listed about 5 gold cards in 3 different tiers. So we had both listed about 15 cards. Have my question is just kind of an update, because I probably should have been prepared and had those cards handy, the list handy, which I didn't do. But how much have you stuck to those 15 cards, and how much have you kind of had a little bit of a direction change or veer away from those cards to different cards? Now, I've seen a lot of your pickups, because when you pick up cards, you've been showing them and saying this is a recent pickup. You recently had a DiMaggio that you showed, and I don't remember if that was on the list, but have you kind of stuck to that list, or have you kind of veered a different direction? And what is that direction, and why did you veer that way?
Sure. So I did change it up a little bit. The 15 cards, I dropped it from 15 to 12. And then what I did was I realized I wanted to focus, like historically I focused on rookie cards. So I wanted to buy rookie cards of iconic players, right? I changed it up after we talked slightly. So I dropped all the Mickey Mantle cards, other than the 54 Bowman.
So, because you had, if I remember correctly, you had the Dandy on there, you had the Red Heart on there on the list of cards. So you've kind of pivoted away from Mantle.
Yeah, so I had the Dandy, the Red Heart. I think I had the 57 Tops. I dropped those off the list. I did get the 54 Bowman. But that was my first pickup for the year. And then I realized when I picked it up that I like Mickey Mantle, but I really want to focus on other players. So I dropped the T205 gold border Christy Mathewson off my list for the year. I dropped the Hack Wilson Gaudy off my list for the year. And then there might have been a couple other Mantles, but then so I dropped those off. And then I said, I want to focus this year on Robinson, Gehrig, and DiMaggio. So I added a few. I think I dropped. So if I added 4 cards in. So I must have dropped 7 cards off my list, and then I added 4 cards in. So now I'm to that 12. Now, once I had done that, I've been pretty focused. So the 40 play ball DiMaggio that I just showed, that was not on my original list. But the 41 play ball DiMaggio was on my original list and is still on my list. And then my 49 Leaf DiMaggio was on my original list and still on my list, right? So I picked those up. The 40 was new to the new list. It was not our original, but I think I'm going to stick with my new list until I acquire them all, at which point I'll reassess. Is it far enough into the year, late enough in the year, where maybe I don't buy anything else big and, treat the fam to something, or if it happens earlier in the year, then maybe I pick up one more card before I start cutting back a little bit on it.
So you said that you've picked up 7 of the 12 so far. That leaves 5 of the 12. But you've also been mentioning that at Strongsville, there's one main card you're looking for with like a backup card. Why not go into Strongsville with all 5 of those cards, and then whatever the best deal and best eye appeal card that arrives in front of you be the card that you go for? Why be focused on a card or 2 instead of like those 5? Like,
sure.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good question. So 2 of them I don't have money for. And if I bought them there, I'd buy them in a grade that my two bigger cards I still have left.
You don't have to tell me what the card is, but go
I,
ahead.
I want really good eye appeal,
Okay.
right? And both of the two bigger cards I have, I need more budget for. So those I took off the list for Strongsville. I mean, I'll
Okay.
be honest, if I
Yeah.
see one of those and the guy's willing to negotiate a fair price, then yeah, I might. But as of now, I don't foresee that because it would have to be a pretty solid deal to get back into where I've got budget. So that leaves me with 3 cards left.
Okay.
The one that I like, the one that I want from Strongsville is a little bit rarer, harder to find card. So that's why it's my goal card for Strongsville. And then my backup card for Strongsville is my second best left on the 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a cool pickup at Strongsville. The third left on the 3 is still a cool card, but it's not something that like I would say, hey, I went to a show to get this card. It's a card that I could fairly easily pick up on eBay. Not easily financially, but easily like
Sure.
there's a lot available on eBay.
Okay.
So I would like to pick up one of the 2 bigger ones of the bottom half.
Yeah. Now, there are probably people out there that are saying, "Well, why aren't you telling us what these cards are that you're after?" And I mean, just full transparency. I think one, honestly, I just in my friendship and relationship with you, I kind of want to be surprised when I get a picture, because what you and I have been doing recently is when we pick up a card, we get excited, we take a picture of it, and then we share the picture with each other. And most of the time when those happen, I'm like, whoa, like I wasn't expecting that, or like I'll send it to you. And like, if you knew, hey, dude, I'm about to buy this card, like it's just selfishly, it's more fun to just kind of be like, bam, and then same back, but also
100%.
at the same time, there is something to be said for there are going to be a lot of people there. And it's kind of probably not the smartest thing in the world to tell a bunch of people what the card that you're on the hunt for is. So it's like it's like, if you see a house on the market that you're kind of interested in, you don't paste all over Facebook, this is a killer deal house. I think I'm going to make an offer on this house. They're asking way under what they should be asking, and it's just an amazing house. Like, why would you do that? Like,
Right.
once you go into escrow, then you might share what the house is. But I
Right.
don't think it's super smart to do that. So just full disclosure to people listening, that's kind of why. And we promise that when we make purchases, we'd be happy to share them.
Yes.
I've got
I 100% agree because I don't know. I know my personality. And if somebody comes up to me at the show and says, hey, I heard you wanted this card, I just bought it.
Yeah.
I'll sell it to you for X amount over what I paid for it.
Right.
I feel like I would not, out of spite, would not buy that card.
Right.
So
yeah, and it's an interesting one because there are a lot of cards, and I'll say this too. There are a lot of cards that are plentiful, right? You could walk into the National wanting a 1956 Jackie Robinson, and there are going to be a lot of that card in the room, right? But if the card that you were walking into the National that you most wanted was a Yingling's Ty Cobb, there aren't a lot of those that are going to be in the room. So if you go, I really want the Yingling's Ty Cobb, and there might be 2 in the room, like that's probably just not the move to make,
I agree.
So that's another reason why right after Strongsville, we want to have a guest on, and we want to reconvene because I want to hear the stories of the shenanigans that all went down.
Right.
And I want to hear who you hung out with and that's kind of what I'm doing. Is I'm asking a lot of the questions of, I know I'm going to want to find out the answers to, okay, I'm setting the stage now. And then in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so, we'll have that guest on. We'll talk about who did you hang out with? What dealers did you go to? What things did you pick up? It's sort of like the preview
Mhm.
of what that video is going to answer, I think.
Yeah.
So, I'm not trying to just leave a bunch of cliffhangers, but I'm just kind of sharing
Sure.
where we're going with all this.
100%.
And
And my thing is, other than Orlando, I've never met anyone else going to the show in person. I mean, technically, I met Mike Moynihan at his thing. I was talking to Theo. He walked by with somebody and we fist bumped, and that was it. So,
right.
like, I never had like a face to face with Mike. So, outside of Orlando, I've never met any of these people like in person, face to face, in a discussion with them. So for me, I'm meeting all new people. I mean, there's some old school guys with crazy collections who I think are super cool guys with super cool collections I want to talk to. There's
Yeah.
guys that I think will just be fun to hang out with that I want to hang out with. And then there's some guys that actually are newer channels that I'm subscribed to and are subscribed to me that are going. And I just think it'd be cool to meet them too.
I'm also very interested in how it goes, because one of the things I was saying, like, what are you expecting? Like, how do you think it's going to go?
Hmm.
I haven't really talked about this yet, but I kind of feel like I can do the National or Strongsville. I don't really feel like I can pull off both at this point. I do think I could probably pull off a Burbank card show and the National or Strongsville, but not all three. And I've kind of been wondering. I'm really going to be interested in how it goes, because I am seriously considering doing Strongsville next year and not
Okay.
the National. Uh, Part of the problem with this year's National is it's in Cleveland, and Strongsville and Cleveland, from where I live, aren't the easiest to travel to.
Yeah.
The next two Nationals are in Chicago, and Chicago is much easier to travel to
Mhm.
from the Sacramento area.
Yeah. You
Now,
can fly
if
direct, right?
you can fly direct easily. Now, I can fly direct to Cleveland from San Francisco. So my dad and I are actually going to drive to San Francisco, which is a couple of hours away, to fly direct, because it saves time over doing a connecting flight to Cleveland from Sacramento. But Chicago is easy to get to, But if next year the National was back in Atlantic City, I'd probably just go to Strongsville, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Um,
I don't like Atlantic City. I don't. Everything I heard how it went was terrible, and then
yeah.
the city itself is not high on my list.
Chicago is kind of the perfect spot for the National,
Mm,
because it is more central. It is a lot of direct flights from a lot of different areas. Part of me just, in the hotel situation, I know they're all across the street versus Cleveland, which is not going to be quite that way. So part of me just kind of wishes that they would just make Chicago the forever spot. But I mean, who am I? So it would be convenient for a lot of people.
I agree. It would be a
I
better
also get
setup.
bummed. I do get bummed out that they haven't had a National on the West Coast in a long time. It has been in LA, Anaheim. It has been in San Francisco, but it's been years since it
Mhm.
was in either of those spots. It just seems like somewhere easy, like Dallas, or like, when they started talking about doing it in Atlanta, I'm like, oh, come on. Like, you're killing the West Coast if you do that.
Yeah,
Even Denver would
Denver. I was
be
gonna say Denver would be
kind of,
good.
Denver would be a real easy spot for, a lot of people to access.
Yeah,
'Cause it's not super far from anywhere, but it's kind of far from everywhere. Like,
right.
that would work. I mean, that would be ideal, but Chicago makes the most sense to me.
Yeah,
Um, Anyway, we are rapidly ticking down to an hour, which is always kind of our goal time. So I don't want to open up a whole new a whole
sure.
new topic, uh, off topic. But you know, that was a very quick hour for me.
Yeah,
I
no,
am ex-
time to me too. To go off
I'm
topic slightly
yeah,
quickly,
yeah.
when you are flying to Cleveland, you have to go through San Francisco. I don't know what airline you're flying, but if you're flying United, in the middle of the United concourse, there's all these restaurants. There's a really awesome banh mi place there. So
A,
if you're going
a
there,
what? A
a
banh
banh
mi?
mi, like a Vietnamese sandwich.
Oh, never heard of it.
Yeah, it's so good.
Okay. Well, we are flying United, and we're
Nice.
flying United from San Francisco, and
Cool. There you go.
we either had to go like a 10 a.m. flight and get there at like 5 p.m., or we had to fly 10 p.m. and get there at like 8 a.m. So we're actually doing the red eye, and
Okay.
we're gonna land the morning of Wednesday of the national. Not that anybody cares about my itinerary for for the
Well, I'll
national,
be
but
there Wednesday, I
we're
think,
gonna
too.
we're gonna wait. We're gonna get there Wednesday morning and be exhausted. But that's the plan.
I think I get there Wednesday. When do I get there? Hold on. I threw my phone on the floor because it kept vibrating. But when do I?
If
Let's see.
if you're tuning in and listening,
Darren is
Darren
looking
is
at his
on his
phone.
phone checking his calendar for the national, which is in the end of July.
Which is funny
But
because I'm looking at the app right now, and I have 4 flights booked right now, and 2 of them are to Cleveland, which is just strange.
right. So, not that any of this matters because we're going to talk to everyone again several times
Mhm.
before then, but um, we're just
Yeah.
videoing our personal meetup information with everybody.
So, I land Wednesday of National Week. I land Wednesday. I get in at like 2:30, so you have
Okay.
time to take a nap before I come find you.
If they'll let me in, do early check-in. Otherwise, I'll just be exhausted laying in my car.
Right? Yeah, taking a nap in the rental car.
Yeah, because the Cleveland is a little different. There are a lot of the hotels are because the Cleveland National is like basically in the airport. Like the convention center is like attached. It's like at the edge of the airport, and
Right.
then the hotels are all basically, you know,
There's like a
stay.
highway around it, and the hotels
Yeah,
are on the outside of the
yeah,
highway.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got time to figure all that out. But we hope you guys had fun listening. Be on the lookout. We're going to be coming back sooner than our normal break, and we're going to have a guest. And
Yes.
you're gonna enjoy the guest, and we will do a lot of uh, post Strongsville shenanigans and pickup stories. So that is going to be fantastic.
Yes.
And is there anything else you want to give us as a parting comment or thought, Darren?
No, I mean, I think, like we talked about the last time we did this, I'm sticking to my plan still. Hope it works out. Who knows? I am looking forward to Strongsville. I'm looking forward to meeting a bunch of people at Strongsville that I've never met in person before. And yeah, I'm not good at filming at shows, but if I see anything crazy, I'll film some cool stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I look forward to that. I mean, I know just Ash, who you referenced earlier, I was talking to my buddy Mookie the other day, and Ash was at a show out by him, and he has a PSA, I think it was a PSA 10 Seaver rookie
Ooh.
and several 52 mantles. So just his table alone will be museum esque.
Yeah, I'm
So,
sure. I'm
yeah.
sure. Yeah, when I bought my 38 Gaudi DiMaggio from him, I saw it on the table he had at the Philly show on Sammy Thunder's video. And when he filmed it, I was like, "Oh, there's the DiMaggio I want." Then I realized it's kind of like the crappiest card on the case.
Yeah, I think he's got pretty high end stuff. So, all right. Well, that
Cool.
does it. And looking forward to a couple weeks from now and our second April meetup
Yep.
and catching up. But I have a feeling I'll hopefully be talking to you sooner than that.
Absolutely, Greg.
All
It
right,
was a
bud.
blast as always.
Awesome. Thanks for listening. If you made it all the way to the end, the keyword to leave in the comment will be, our keywords will say are off topic. So that will be you leave that in the comments. Say off topic somewhere in your comment, in the comments, and we'll know you made it to the end. All right?
Perfect.
All right. See you guys.
Bye, guys.